2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Hello and welcome to episode 316 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, November 4th in the evening. From Gadgetan, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hats. From Karazhan, California, we have Botticus.
Yo.
And from Nomergon, Ohio, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
And from where you are out there in the universe, listeners, we have you. We have those of you in Twitch chat. We have those of you that are listening to the audio feed. Those of you who are watching on YouTube. Thank you all so much for their support, and also extra special thanks to our patrons and our newest patron, Blood Rose. Blood Rose right here in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. And while we're here, thank you to Incrediblum for 5 gifted subs. Thank you, Incrediblum. The patrons are the best in the world, but also, if you want to be the best in the world for free, you can leave us a review on iTunes. Really helps other people find the show. All right, Life and Ladder. This is the first show post 21.6 patch. So, what have we been doing? There has been literally too much to do. So who wants to go first?
I can go first. Yeah, I have kind of dove back into standard and experimenting with decks, and it feels like there's quite a bit to experiment with. People, I think, are maybe messing around more than they would have because we're all so tired of the meta from before, so we haven't kind of slid back to just Quest Mage and Garrote Rogue and other things quite yet, at least not like in my matchups. It'll probably go back to that soon. I did see a fair bit of Face Hunter, I guess, but apart from that, it seems like people are really trying out the new stuff, so it's been fun.
Don't worry, you'll see the Quest Mage again. I ran into a few in a row today, and I lost to it was turn 8, and I lost to a studied Solarian Prime for a fire sale, and let me tell you, didn't super miss that feeling. But I will say, in general, there's been more variety. Not all Quest Mages, it's not all Solarian Primes. Just happened that one time. Botticus, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. So, haven't had a ton of times since the patch came out, since I've been dog sitting, which, by the way, for the listeners, apparently there is a rumor going around that I hate dogs. That is not the case. It is quite the opposite. You should go listen again to the episode where about Gary and get my full actual feelings instead of spreading slanderous material. But either way, so I haven't got a ton of time, but I played a little bit of everything except Mercenaries. I did a few games of Standard with the new Pirate Warrior because I thought Smite was going to be quite strong, and feels pretty good, but haven't got that many games in. Played a game of Battlegrounds with a friend last night, and I think the implementation of Diablo so far seems pretty cool, but I got to get a bunch more games to really feel what that feels like. And lastly, I got in a couple of games of duels. I was not offered Diablo, but if I'm being honest, I probably would not have taken him to start, because I'm not really sure on the power level. But yeah, got a sweet priest run and feels like it's going pretty well. I played against Diablo once and beat him up. So I don't know if that is a indication to his strength, but it seemed like he did some strong things. But I think I'm going to need to play a lot more games against him to get the full idea what he sounds like.
Was it a Quest Warlock Diablo?
No, it was not.
I think that's probably why, because
They
my
would have
impression...
got destroyed if they were Quest demon if they request Diablo.
Oh,
I'm playing priest with no minions. Like their weapons can't hit any of my stuff, and I do all direct damage to their face while they're also doing their own direct damage to their face. They would have stood no chance.
Maybe. I don't know. My impression of the Quest Warlock Diablo is that hero power where you get to hit yourself for 3 and then gain 3 armor. That's pretty good for completing the quest without actually taking damage. And then
it's pretty good, except it costs 3 mana. 3 mana
Yeah.
feels like an infinite amount in duels, to me at least.
Hold on a second here. And we're back. Say a couple things.
A couple things.
Better?
Yeah, I mean, when I initially looked at Diablo's kit, I wasn't super impressed, and playing against him it didn't seem like the Diablo would have had time to complete more than 2 legs of the quest without dying. So maybe that's a mischaracterization, but yeah, I definitely see how it could be strong, but in my experience, 3 is a lot to pay for that hero power, because that hero power, when you compare it to like some of the other hero powers you can get, it just doesn't seem that strong.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Tour Guide does a lot of work. And
Tour Guide is banned.
Oh, is it really? Okay, well.
You cannot play Tour Guide, and also you cannot get it from buckets. So
yeah, Diablo
okay,
has a
that makes
6 mana hero power, so I'm not surprised they got ahead of that one.
Yeah.
Because that would be exploitable, I think.
There's not a lot of way. There's only one treasure, and it's extremely rare, that messes with hero powers, and it just reduces the hero power by 1, and you can use it twice in a turn. So that would be pretty strong with that. But even at the same time, you're just like you're breaking even on health to do 3 damage, and it's just like, I don't know, like when you compare it to the power level that you're doing, like I just don't want to be hero powering in duels if I can help it, for the most part.
I guess maybe it depends what you're playing into them, but what it felt like for me was I kept getting my board cleared, and they would gain a bunch of life, and then they completed the quest, and every hero power is gain 3 armor, deal 3 to you, and then hit you for 3. So yeah, I don't know. It seemed like between Fire Stomp and then like, Tamsin Touch or Drayton Soul shenanigans, and then still having access to board clears like Brawl, etc. It can be tough to face Diablo, at least if you're trying to win through minions, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely could see that, though. That's the main reason I chose Priest, is because I figured a lot of people would be playing Diablo, and a lot of people would be playing the quest version, and like if I only play 1 or 2 minions over the course of the game, you're just not going to be able to complete your quest quickly. You're going to take too much damage, and all the Priest deck does is do damage directly to your face. So yeah, it's just really hard for them to keep up with the amount of damage they're taking if they don't, especially because like a lot of their life gain also involves them having minions to use it on, so they either have to use it on their own minions, which is less pressure on the priest and more of a chance for them to gain lots of extra damage through like cost reduction stuff.
I'm glad to hear that the reaction to Diablo is more measured here, though I expected nothing less from you two, because day one, I definitely saw a lot of feedback of like, he's broken, seems insane, it's better than everything else, and then no, I don't think that's true. It seems good.
I've played against him once, so
yeah.
Like it's hard to say, but like just my initial impression plus the time that I played against him. But like if I was playing Pirate Warrior or something, then I would imagine that I would have had a much harder time, because like even still Diablo gets access to Rancor, which is quite good against priests, Shadow Word Void,
little tentacle things, tentacle fiends.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good against that. So it's just something you have to think about. But I knew they also had a Rancor because I mind visioned it from their hand. So
Well,
yeah.
And Duels is one of those formats where, like, because of the inherent nature of the variants and the passives and the so many different factors, like when you get something that's good, players tend to extrapolate one good run to this hero is broken, and it's just Duels, man. Like, that's just how Duels is, that when you're winning, you're doing something that seems unfair because that's what Duels is about. For those of you that want to know more about Duels, go listen to our bonus episode that we just released in this feed a little while, along with an interview with developer Atesh Bayrak Taralu, who also is Tabayrak on Twitter and is very, very interactive on social media, and also likes dogs, and has 2 adorable dogs named Bishop and Rook. And they seem like nice puppers. So, I would love to give feedback on Duels, but I haven't played any Duels. And I would love to talk about Battlegrounds. I haven't played any Battlegrounds. And I'd love to talk about Arena. I haven't played any Arena, because there's too much in Hearthstone to do. There is officially too much. I played a lot of mercs. I played a lot of Standard. I like both. And we are at the point now that when they put out a patch in the middle of the work week with 6 different formats getting updated, I just can't play them all. So I want to do more, but instead I've been dipping into Mercenaries and Standard a lot, and I like both a lot. And BGs looks interesting. It seems like Diablo got buffed today, because Diablo and BGs, it seemed like, was really underpowered based on how it works. I'm curious to try it out. But I want to play more Hearthstone than I have time to play, which is not something I normally expect to say in the 4th month of an expansion cycle. But also, this expansion cycle has been different than most, I think is fair to say. I'm at the point where I'm just assuming I'm not going to be able to stay wired into Battlegrounds at all, just because I haven't played it. I don't have the time for it. It's not something that I usually zone into, and it's just like, there's too much to do, and I got to do my dailies in 2 formats every day. Not got to, I want to. And, I don't know. Been playing with the new mercs, been playing with the old mercs, doing the bounties, getting my dailies, getting some Task 7s. I have Diablo's Task 7 in my queue right now. Air Elemental, I'm going to run that one back for old time's sake. Probably not going to get a Stranger, but going to get my Black Soul Stone. And, yeah, there's a lot of Hearthstone going on right now. So, why don't we talk about the news? We should do that.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right. So as we have just talked about, 21.6 is live, and holy cow, just a lot of stuff. It is just so much. Like, what, I don't even know what we even talk about. Like, I mean, we just kind of talked about like our experiences, but like, what has been the kind of the response that we've largely seen from other people? Are people enjoying it? People in the Discord, are they liking it? Is it kind of landing medium?
Talking about Deadmines?
How are we looking? Yeah.
Deadmines, I think, is a bigger
Deadmine,
chain.
like just kind of in general, like what's the vibe? What are people talking about?
Well, they changed 6 different formats. Like, people are talking about all sorts of stuff. I haven't seen as much about Arena, but Duels definitely come. Like, there are too many channels to keep up with in too many different Discords. I know in BGs, definitely the biggest thing that I saw was that Diablo was underwhelming in a really major way, but people are definitely hyped about Cookie and Sneed. A lot of conversation about those being quite strong. Duels, I know that, well, a lot of people actually, they already said they listened to our episode, Bodicus, and the unlocks were really important in them trying it again, as well as there were a couple people I talked to that thought that buckets came from their collection. Like, that might have been something that was holding people back on initial release. They didn't realize that the buckets were not. They are not. For anyone listening, the buckets do not come from your collection. They just give them to you. The only collection you have to worry about now is the 15 base cards that you built. That's it. So, 15 cards is a deck, and you only get 1 copy of each thing. So it's really not that bad anymore. I've talked to a lot of people that have been trying it out. A lot of people that had fun. I did talk to one person that got Shadow Word Void Fire Shapered their first game, and said that wasn't very fun, which I think that's accurate. I think that isn't very fun, but that doesn't happen all the time.
You mean your first run, right? You
the
can't
first,
get Fire Shaper in
or
your
yeah,
first game.
Right, second game. Right.
Second game, yeah.
Yeah. It's and standard is way more different than I think a lot of people were expecting it to be. And we have our entire Decksplanations segment is about standard, right? So
Yep.
there will be a lot of conversation about that. But yeah, they changed so much stuff, and there was also some hidden stuff or stuff that didn't really catch as much attention.
Yeah, like for instance, there's now a Diamond Jandis that you can earn. And also we have all of the lists for the battle ready decks. So we have like legitimate decks here. So like, well, Quest Rogue a little bit less on the upper end, but like we said, it would have not been a great idea to give a Garrote Rogue as a battle ready deck. Probably not the best decision to do. But also we got Taunt Druid, Quest Hunter, and Hand Buff Pally. And
Quest Rogue's good right now, by the
full
way.
deck
It's
list.
very good against Warrior.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like heavy minion decks that are not super aggressive with a lot of face damage, I would imagine Quest Rogue would do quite well against, because a lot of the what do they call them? The gizmos? Is that what they're called?
Spy
The-
gizmos.
The lackeys.
Yeah, all the spy gizmos seem pretty good against minions and not so good against not minions, so Quest Rogue in a good spot. And then also, what is this hero portrait landing screen?
Let me see if
I was
can
not aware
find
of this.
So this is a new-ish thing. Here, let me see if I can find a picture of this. Let's see. Is this gonna screw up the cast?
I think it's like a UI change. So instead of having to
Okay.
keep
This is the
paging
most
through
scuffed
again and
thing ever.
again.
I am going to put a really scuffed picture on the screen that I have. If I can find this. I was supposed to do this before. This is good content. Good content.
Do either of you already have the Diamond Jandis?
Oh yeah, totally. It was for all
what do-
Elements cards, right?
25
the,
Skull Man's legendaries. She can
have
create
you
diamond minions,
played
by the
her?
way. If you hit like a diamond, if you hit like a Benedictus or whatever, a diamond, like it'll be diamondified. So anything that has an existing
cool.
diamond version, you can hit a diamond version. Yeah,
And if
They
it
did
doesn't,
not-
it's golden.
Correct.
Correct,
They did
yeah.
not make diamonds for all the 5 drops just so that you could get them. That would be
Right.
a little over the top in the animation department.
Well, no, I'm just wondering what her animation looks like, because the diamond animations are.
It's okay. She has a bit of sway to her in the diamond animation.
it's a little weird.
Like the played animation, like when you play her.
The play animation is the same. It's
Got
just her frame. She's a
Oh,
little
okay.
taller and she kind of moves back and forth a little bit. It's. I think we've seen better diamond animations, but it's cool.
Yeah.
So I put the hero portrait landing page on the screen. This is a screen capture of a Twitter video, so forgive the quality. But you end up, when you go to the portraits, you get this. You get all 10 heroes laid out like like a Tavern Brawl hero selection screen, and then you see all the portraits built into it. It's just a nice little touch. All right, like this, it's not a world changer, but it's a nice little touch. So when you go in and you can see all the portraits grouped by class and how many you have and how many you're missing.
Had not seen this yet, and so I didn't want to get ahead of myself in describing what it looked like. But this is almost exactly what I had in mind. It's just so that you don't have to keep paging through, and you can go right to the class whose portraits you're looking for. It's cool that it also shows you like your fractional count of how many you have out of the total.
Yep. Since this is clearly a really successful pipeline for them, I think it makes a lot of sense that as they expand the offerings in such a major way, that they add features to let us see them all together. And yeah, chat is saying, and I agree, we're getting pretty close to the need for random portraits and random coins, because they added retroactive coins too. So Ashes and then all of the Year of the Dragon all have coins, Ashes and all of Year of the Dragon. Rise.
I did notice I got a bunch new coins.
Yep, Rise, Saviors, and DoD along with Ashes all have new coins. They're pretty cool. They're interesting. So, of course, I just kept cat coin on because it's the best coin. But I looked at the other ones in my collection, and it was fun. So we're probably due for random portraits and random coin coming up. Like, there's going to be a lot of random options, and I think this is the kind of thing that we should expect to see for a little while. I hope they're done with game modes. I can't take more game modes. I just can't do it. There's already, like, probably one of the 2 most popular modes in the client, if not the most popular in Battlegrounds. I don't even have time to play it. I can't even keep up with it. They had more good Battlegrounds, like, or good game modes. I don't know what to do. I have no idea.
I'm
luckily
almost happy that they're gonna take away the BG's pass from the pre-orders, because then it'll give me an excuse to drop one of the modes, and I could just focus on mercs and standard.
And luckily, Blizzard recognized that we didn't have time to play all the modes this week, and so they made the Tavern Brawl that just plays itself, so we can just put it on and then go do something else.
Oh man, let's not talk about that whole.
We have to talk about it. I think it's worth saying this is maybe the worst Tavern Brawl I've ever seen. We try and be positive. I think it's an interesting proof of concept. Didn't work. It was bad.
It was so bad it made me rethink the idea of autoplay mercenaries for grinding tasks.
So, all right. Was this supposed to be that whatever you picked as your stage direction had some impact on what the AI would do, or was it just totally random? Because I hit a point where I watched the AI float 6 mana on a turn where I had said draw 4 cards, and I was like, okay, do they just for sure not play anything if you choose the draw option, or do they do certain things if you say like a summon minions option? I was trying to figure out if I had any agency through the stage directions, and I just could not wrap my head around whether that was true or not.
You don't. You do a thing that changes the board state. No idea how to dictate the actions of the AI. For those that didn't play the mode, well, none of us did either, because you don't play it. It's you get a discover pop-up at the start of each turn to dictate what it's something that happens in the game. It can be something like summon copies of your opponent's minions, give every minion in your hand +1/+1, draw 4 cards, whatever. So they had 5 pre-selected classes that you could choose from, and the AI played out the turns. And the AI was not very good at playing out their turns. There was like Quest Mage and Quest Warrior. There were often times where the deck would play the quests. They would just skip playing the quests, even though they were quest decks with quest on 1. There were other times where it would just miss lethal. Like you could kill your opponent and then you just didn't. I got my pack on the second, I'm holding up air quotes, win, where I was against a mage. I played Defias Cannoneer on 3, and my quote-unquote opponent elected to not kill it for 4 turns, despite trading into smaller minions with the same amount of health. And then I won with a bunch of cannonballs. It was like, there's just no reason to engage with it other than getting the pack. It gets you progress in your quest, but it's just so frustrating to watch a game of Hearthstone. Pack. I did. It's
I played it once and I was like, it's not worth getting a pack here. I completed my legendary quest or whatever it was. I'm good. I feel really bad, like talking this bad about the Tavern Brawl, because somebody came up with the idea and went through a lot of work to get it to function and all this, but it just missed so hard. And it's like, oh man, like it's crazy to think like how much actually playing Hearthstone matters when you're playing Hearthstone. Like how much the ability to just make moves in the game affects your enjoyment out of playing Hearthstone so much. Like an unbelievable amount.
I mean, if you had a quest, this still progresses quest. I had a play 30 cards quest. This did it for me. I did not have to do a thing. So if you want to gain experience or clear quests or whatever, queue this up, pick a class, do not look at the gameplay, don't even read the option, just pick the left card every time. Do something else on a different screen, just pick the left one every time, and then come back later and see if you won or not. easy enough. But as maybe as a proof of concept, it was interesting. As something that they expect the player to do when so much of the game is about having agency, and this actively removed it from you, I think it was a big miss. So, not a huge deal, just a tavern brawl. I was skipping tavern brawls anyways, but I got a legendary quest to do it, wanted to see it, got my legendary quest pack, but it was silly. It was a silly thing. So, either way, there's plenty of other good stuff to talk about. However, there are some.
Unfortunately, this next section is not that.
No, we'll get there.
So
we'll get there. Gotta take the
these
ups
aren't
with the
bad,
downs.
though. I mean, as with everything, with every big patch, especially a patch this big, there were some known issues. So dormant. I haven't seen this. What does dormant look like? Apparently, dormant minions are looking strange.
Some of them. I played with Imprisoned and Tans and against them multiple times and they seem fine, but apparently they turn purple? Like bright and purple when you hover them? I don't know. I know they're working on it.
Oh, no, I had this happen where it was like it looked like a broken tooltip or something. You would go over the Imprisoned and Tan, and the card that it was supposed to bring up instead was just like a purple screen, kind of like if you're trying to capture HS replay to put on a stream or something. It's just like that weird purple. It was bizarre.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Yeah.
And also Lord Barov has been temporarily disabled from Battlegrounds. Probably not a huge deal, as he was definitely one of the more mid-pack type of heroes. But a very fun hero if you were very in the know about who should be winning combats. I wonder. That's got to be it. I wonder what Lord Barov does when
it's the Diablo turns that are weird.
It's the fourth turn on the Diablo turn. Is that why they disabled him? Because he could get like 9 coins or something.
Yeah,
just guess the Diablo wins and.
Well, no, it doesn't show Diablo. It shows who they would normally be matched against. Because what it does is Diablo doesn't interfere until they're about to queue up. So in the tavern, you show the match they would have played without the Diablo fight. So it's like Barov against somebody else. And then they end up playing against Diablo anyways. Because the swap to the combat happens later. After the
so you don't
after
get anything.
So you don't get the matchup that you pick never cease play.
I wonder what happens if you get Diablo, though. If, like, the match that it happens to pick is the Diablo versus
I have no idea.
Somebody else, and then you pick Diablo, that would have been cool. That would have been cool to figure out what happens.
I think the likely fix here is keep this disabled until
Disable
Diablo
Barov.
rotates.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then bring him back when it's more normal.
Speaking of disabling things, Vol'jin's, the mercenaries tasks have been disabled. Or temporarily disabled, but I guess they're back already.
He got turned back on today, yeah. There was a task that was stuck that wouldn't progress. They turned him off, and then if you were stuck, then you got 100 Vol'jin coins. He's back now.
Okay. And then there's a legendary quest issue that has also been fixed. As well as some dual login run issues that I think we saw like right away, right when the legendary quest came out. Some people were posting in Discord that they would literally try to start playing duels and it would just say there is no run active, and it would show like a warrior and they can't even add cards to the deck or something. But this has been fixed.
Yeah. I have a funny story about that. So Cinder, former host of this show, posted he had never played duels before, went to log in duels, and it said that his run had an issue loading. He'd never done a run, so it was stuck. So then he went to press OK and it closed out of the screen. So I took the screenshot and I sent it to my friend who works Blizzard QA. It was on Twitter, Fussrow Daniel. Daniel has been doing a great job with keeping track of bugs. And then he tweets about the issue. And then Cinder replies, I've been having this issue. And then he replies again, wait, that's my screenshot. And it went full circle. And Cinder posted today that he's been able to get back in. So they were able to resolve this one. There was also another very strange login bug that Enzo516 in our Discord was having, where just in the middle of a game got booted out and then got a weird database error hovering over the top of the screen logging back in. Couldn't get back in at all on any platform for about a day, and then finally they fixed that too. So no idea what happened there, but apparently it was something that multiple users had been experiencing, and then it's since been resolved. So this is the second patch in a row now where they've been super duper active on the hotfixes, but also had a lot to clean up. So I am guessing this will be the trend for a little while. I really hope they can get some more engineers. They've been working so hard, but like it would be really nice for these things to not be in the game on launch. I understand you can't catch everything, but I feel a little bad for wild players because they have a game-breaking bug right now, or well, no, not game-breaking, but like game-affecting. You know the card Jerry Rig Carpenter, right? The 2-mana 2/1 Druid Pirate that it's a 2-mana 2/1 Druid Pirate. Battlecry, draw a choose one card and split it. And
Or was it choose one spell?
I think it is a spell. I think you're right. I don't remember, but I think it's a spell. Either way, Hidden Oasis. The split halves inside the game are currently coded to cost 0 mana. Hidden Oasis makes a 6/6 taunt or heals for 12. So you go turn 1, coin it, 0 mana 6/6. By the way, it's a pirate, so pull patches and drop the Brigand and play from your hand. I imagine this will be hotfixed tomorrow. It didn't make today's hotfix, but they know about it. They're working on it. But this is the second recent release where wild players have had something that works not the way it's supposed to that is affecting games. I wouldn't blame them for being a little upset. Because if you recall, the last time it was Maxima Blastenheimer for Cthulhu and you take 128. Again, I don't know about the competitive viability. This one is probably better in Aggro Druid because turn 1, you get a 1/1, a 2/1, and a 6/6 taunt. That's turn 1 and 9/8.
Still more not as broken as Quest Warlock.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Wild is a goofy format, but I imagine this will be fixed in the near future.
Yep. Also, there are some BG damage bugs involving Diablo and desyncs. Don't know a ton of the details. I know that, yeah, it was... So, I think the first round of 4, or the fourth turn where everybody plays Diablo, I think Diablo is immune and has a ton of life, right? Like, I don't think Diablo can take damage from opponents on turn 1. Turn 4.
It might be. So again, I've been pretty out of the loop on BG stuff. The issues that I've seen so far has been that Diablo has desyncs going on, that after the first Diablo lobby, sometimes, you remember with Lich King, when Lich King used the hero power, there were 2 different outcomes. That what you saw versus what the player playing the Lich King saw was different. That's what's going on with Diablo. My understanding is that there are differing amounts of damage where you will kill someone on your side, and then the version of Diablo on the server side stays alive. For example, that damage is not. There are damage bugs there. So
okay.
I don't have a ton of details on this. But I have seen a lot of BG's players tweeting about it. I know Minder Roots has been tweeting about it. MINDER Roots on Twitter. They've been tweeting about it. There's some messages in Discord over there. And there's also some disparity with the loot effect as to who gets it.
Got it.
Yeah. There are some examples that are on Twitter.
Yeah, and then also outside of known issues, I know definitely me and Hat are going to be excited about this, but there is an Edwin bundle coming for Constructed.
And a portrait.
Edwin, both Hat and one of our favorite cards. Even though he it took a while for him to finally get a Hall of Famed. Didn't he get nerfed? He got nerfed to 4 mana and then got Hall of Famed? Or
Blame
did
Foxy.
He just get straight?
No, it was Foxy. Foxy pushed him to 4 because he was a little bit too good early game. I mean, he was that way for a while, but Foxy really pushed over the edge. So he got pushed to 4, then Hall of Fame back to 3, or not Hall of Fame. They did away with the Hall of Fame around then. He left Standard.
I know Edwin a lot.
Yeah.
Edwin helped me kill Appa on turn 3 in our in the first ever Coin Concede listener league.
Yep.
Because even though he had 2 hexes and 2 devolves.
Also, there's a new Edwin card back. Comes with this. Looks awesome. Looks so good.
I'm stoked.
Wait. Why doesn't he have his kerchief up?
You're gonna have to ask him. I don't know.
But Edwin can't be unmasked. It's too weird.
It's how it is. I don't know. Yeah. And then we've got some merc stuff too. I'll take over the merc stuff, bot. I got you. So, there was a blog post. What's next for mercenaries? And this was, so to meet our expectations, this was clear communication from the mercs team about what they want to do. It was not clear about what they figured out already. Because they haven't figured it out already. Because the game came out 23 days ago, calendar-wise. Which I guess is, just under 20 days business-wise. Even though they've all been working weekends. Paul, if you're listening to this, stop working weekends. It's the lead designer for mercs. He's constantly responding in community discords in the weekends. I don't know how he does it. There's a lot that they have received feedback about, a lot that they want to work on, and a lot that they're aware of, but they don't have clear solutions yet, and so I want to make sure we meet our expectations here, because this is just talking about, hey, here's where we're going. And we'll start with the important stuff. On Tuesday the 9th, if you played Mercenaries already, you'll get 5 free packs. Enjoy them. On the 16th, the following week, if you bought a pre-order bundle, and you don't already own the base portrait for that pre-order skin for the Lich King, the Diablo, or Sylvanas, if you don't already own the base copy, the collectible version that you can find in packs, they will give it to you. If you do already own that, if you bought the pre-order and then you open these in packs, you get 100 coins for that base copy. So, 100 Diablo coins, 100 Lich King coins, whatever. And then there's a bunch of stuff about what they've seen, what they've heard, and what they want to do, but not as much concrete action right now. There are a few things. They said explicitly that they want your daily Toki quest to be more interesting, and they want more ways to get players tasks. That was very early in the article. They also said there is another building coming to the village, the training hall. This is how your Pokemon, mercenaries, gain experience and levels when you're not playing. You get to kind of plop someone in there, and they level up. It's coming. Don't know when, don't know how much it's going to cost. I believe the original data mine said 600 gold. We don't know if that's where it's going to land, but it is coming. Also, just to clarify, the first season of PvP, they didn't reset this past week. The ratings are resetting the end of the month, end of November. And at that point, you'll be able to grind up again, and you will be able to get your ranked reward chests, your season reward chests again, at certain MMR thresholds. They have some other stuff going on with PvE rebalancing. They specifically call that Heroic Snowclaw. And they want to look at bounties in general, normal and heroic, as well as a change to how Mysterious Stranger works in the future. They didn't have clarity here. I would assume that they're not going to take it away without adding more task acquisition, because it's very clear that players want more task acquisition, especially through PvP means. They like the bounty boss system, but they know there are some issues with collection and filling out which mercs you own and which tasks you get, as well as packs in general. They know that players don't like how duplicate mercenaries are handled right now. They know that packs are confusing as hell, and that right now they don't really satisfy the people looking for portraits, and they don't really satisfy the people that are not looking for portraits. So they got to work on that. They don't have anything clear to share yet. And also they're aware that portraits need a direct acquisition option, and they're looking to both thinking of changing how we get them or adding ways to acquire them. Okay. Edelweiss, what do you think? You read this right before the show.
Yeah, so I think it's cool that they're gonna add, more interesting quests. In a lot of ways, the Toki one has always felt like the kind of least enjoyable one to get, or sort of least exciting one to complete for the
Least
daily
memorable,
quests.
right? Like,
yeah, because it's
when
just
I
like,
open up the task board, I look for my task 7s. I look see like how close am I, and then like Toki's here too.
right. And I guess the advantage is that it's for someone random, so like sometimes they're legendary coins, and that feels good. But in general, sort of 25 coins for 2 random mercs is just sort of like, okay. So it's nice to then have kind of different iterations on that. I think that'll be nice. The training hall will be nice because then you don't need to, in addition to grind tasks, also grind out levels. And I'm sure, it varies person to person how much of a chore this is, but personally, particularly when you get to sort of their level 25 or whatever, those last levels take kind of a while to get, and you just sort of have your super fast clear team of 3 mercs, and then you've got your 3 mercs that you're leveling on the bench, and you're just trying to do whatever you can to get them as much XP as possible. But it still takes a while, so it would be great to be able to just toss them in the training hall, and even if it takes a while leaving them there, the fact that you can just leave them there while you do other things is nice, because then they're just sort of working their way towards that level 30 while you can be task grinding or whatever. So I'm really looking forward to having that training hall as like just an additional means of leveling up mercs, because it's going to be this weird thing every time they release new content of, cool, there's new mercenaries, but also they have to be leveled. So I would expect that I'll be like power leveling them with a 3 level 30s for the first 20 or so levels, and then throwing them in the training hall for that last bit where it's going to take a little bit longer to get them through those levels anyway, so I can focus on other things while they're sitting in there.
Did you ever feel like leveling was the thing that actually held you back from doing content? Like,
I mean, not like the thing, but I know that once I get a merc to level 20, it does take kind of a while to get them the rest of the way, and I like focusing on one thing at a time, and I would rather focus on getting particular tasks rather than leveling. I think it's one of those things that's different from person to person, how much of a barrier it is. But when you're really grinding for PvP, I think it's just sort of like one more thing that you've got to deal with.
Okay. Like, it's one more thing you have to deal with, and sometimes you'll get like complete a bounty at level 30 and they're like level 20. It's like, ugh, what do I do about this? Do I let the slot get eaten, or do I keep going? I think that honestly the biggest structural change they have to make, I thought it was tasks, but after playing this past week, they need to figure out how to give us new mercs gracefully, because diluting current packs is bad. Like, there's no way to speed that up other than spending money and saving packs. And even then, you just end up with not a lot of coins for them. And it feels like it just takes kind of forever. And again, the answer is, once again, task farming. And task farming needs to stop being the answer here. So I don't have a good answer for this. The devs are working on it, and I am sure they are further along than we are. And it doesn't seem like there's an easy answer given the current structure. But something needs to be there. And, like, I'm fine with them still making their money, but it can't just be anytime new stuff comes out, spend money or be behind. Like, that's not where it can land, so I hope it doesn't.
Well, and let's talk about that for a sec. So they put out a few different bundles, and it seems clear that the value they place on sort of you getting a known card is kind of way higher than what I would expect compared to an unknown card of that same rarity. Like, okay, I'll warrant that it deserves to be higher, but it has been like
Oh no. Oh no. Edel?
Switching server does not seem to have worked.
Oh no.
Quite a bit higher, it feels like. Oh,
Oh.
no.
Oh, no, hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna
probably
switch
back.
again. One more time.
Oh.
One more time. Alright, trying West Coast.
Wait, where did I lose you to?
The known versus unknown.
So, yeah, for example, they had an Edwin bundle where you know you're getting Edwin, right? And it was like, what, $20 or something?
$20 for, I think, was it 20 packs and Edwin? 15 packs? I forget. 10 packs.
I think it was 10 packs in Edwin.
Yeah.
And there was another bundle that was like, you get a random epic and 10 packs. And it was like half the cost or something. I feel bad that I'm getting the values wrong, but even remembering back to where they offered you, you could get a random legendary for like $5, or you could get a legendary that was for sure missing from your collection. In my case, it was Jiraxis was the only legendary I was missing, and so I could either get Jiraxis and some packs, or I could get a random legendary and some packs. And I was like, well, okay, I know I'm getting Jiraxis, so of course I get the random legendary. But in general, even if I had multiple gaps in my collection, I'd be way more inclined to go for the random one for a much cheaper price than to pay an extra like $10 for the known one. And that has been my feeling every time there's sort of new deals offered in the Mercenaries shop, is like, I'm not going to buy anything where you're getting a known merc because it feels like the price tag is just way too high on it for me. And I got stupidly lucky this time around. I got the random epic merc, and so that gave me, I think it was Sneed. And in my 10 packs, I opened all the ones I was missing, which was going to happen for the rares, but I got a little lucky to be able to open Edwin and Eudora as well.
Yep.
But if I hadn't opened them, then we've got a situation where, okay, I want this new merc that's of a higher rarity, so it wasn't a given that I was going to open them in a few packs. But since they haven't been out since the beginning, I don't have a bunch of coins for them. So if I want to be able to craft them, I have to, I guess, farm the new missions over and over to try and get them. And like, they're level 30 missions, so it's not nothing to get through them. And yeah, as you say, getting new mercs is going to be really, really challenging because we won't have built up this, oh, I've been opening some packs and getting coins for that merc. It would be different if they at some point make a shift and say, oh, this is like a merc expansion, and so there's a new kind of mercenaries packs where you'll only be getting the new ones. That could be a way to do it, but you would have to release quite a few for that to be worth doing.
I mean, you could say this expansion in the normal constructed side, this expansion on traditional side, also has corresponding packs, and any mercs released during the cycle are in these packs. And that makes them super valuable up front because they're so focused. And then as they add in mercs, you're more likely to hit from the certain pool that you haven't gotten. I think it makes people more likely to buy than less likely. Because if you know that you only have 5 to 10 new mercs in a new cycle, and then you're going to buy a smaller number of packs, but you're going to buy something, and then you'll open those up. But in the long term, they need to figure out the excess coin stuff, which didn't even talk about in the blog. And it's possible that excess coins will turn into an acquisition mechanism. But as of right now, I don't see a future where that's not incredibly painful to acquire new mercs and level them up and grind out the coins, because the packs they're not player friendly enough in filling out duplicates and helping boost coins for mercs that you need more coins for. There needs to be some kind of modification to how players acquire resources for new mercs.
So it's not a perfect comparison, but I wanted to put this in here real quick. It feels kind of like when Duels was released, where it's like there's all this other stuff you could have or you could be doing, but we're not going to release it yet. but like it's a little different obviously for mercs because you can release it by either spending a ton of money or putting in a ton of time. Actually both, because you can't really get tasks. You can't get tasks without playing the game a ton, but it's just like all this content you really have to wait before you get to fully experience the game. So like for me it's like, well, I don't want to put in all this time to try something that I might not enjoy. Like if I enjoyed the journey to get everything unlocked, then it'd be better. But it feels like you're trying to get to this destination, but the trip there is not particularly interesting.
I mean, it's like if when releasing new cards, they had put them in classic packs or something. There's duplicate protection, so that does go a long way, right? Part of why I was able to get the new mercs so easily was because all I had to do was open something of each rarity, and it was going to be the new thing because I already had all the old stuff. But if you're not in that position, then it's a lot more challenging, and it's kind of weird that you still have to keep opening up the same packs for anything new, or at least, maybe it's fine now, but as we get more and more and more new stuff, yeah, you're going to be opening up coins for mercenaries that you already have maxed out, and yeah, it's just kind of going to feel really inefficient.
Well, I think that what they're going for, Edel, is for the experience to be like where you are, where we spent some money and got all the original mercs, and then when new ones came out, we spent a little more and it wasn't that bad. That's very clearly what they're going for. But that's an experience that seems poor if you are unwilling to spend the money up front, and I am certain that they're working on ways to fix this. But we don't currently have those, and I am hopeful that they find a way to implement it, because there are too many resources to grind right now. There's time is the most important one, but also coins, and also just pure acquisition of the base mercs. And the system isn't set up for it yet. But the whole point of this blog is to explain that they know that they have some work to do. And
on the other hand, even being in my position where, yes, I have spent a fair amount on the game, and I'm lucky enough to have gotten all the new mercenaries. Yes, I have the new mercenaries, but I have basically no coins for them. My progression for all of the early stuff was fairly quick, even for mercenaries that I got later on, because by the time I opened them, I had also opened a fair number of coins for them. But since the packs are the same for these new ones, it's not like there's duplicate protection on coins, because they just can't function that way. So I have no way to sort of focus my coin opening on the new mercenaries. And it's this weird thing where it's like, okay, sure, I can level them up and get them to level 30, but I barely have coins to put all their abilities to level 2 without doing tasks.
I got the Edwin bundle, and it was 150 coins, and so I saved them for the first upgrade on each ability. 50, 50, and 50. Like, there's... At this point, it's very clear that this is an early system, but also, right now, the appeal of the mode is narrower than it has to be, and I'm playing and engaging the way that I think the designers intended. Spending a decent, good bit whenever something comes out, not a crazy amount. I'm not buying loose packs. But, the bundles, I am somewhat likely to engage with the bundles when they come out. Usually I get, whenever they have one or two in the store, I'll think about them. And I'm doing my dailies, and I'm pushing PvE here and there, and I'm doing a PvP here and there, but I'm not even above 6k. I'm not really pushing competitively. And I'm having a good time. But that is a very narrow case. If people fall off after a day, and they think about all the daily tasks that they missed that they could have gotten, they're less likely to come back. If people see the new mercs and don't have any packs saved up, they're less likely to come back. If they get the new mercs and don't have any coins for them, they're less likely to come back. They play PvP, and they play against comps where things are leveled and maxed and theirs aren't. They're less likely to come back. There are so many exit points right now for what is fundamentally a fun gameplay experience with some structure that just isn't ready for prime time, that it's a narrower experience than it has to be. I'm glad the gameplay is as compelling as it is because there's enough there to really be something that people want to do. But there are so many speed bumps along the way, and this blog is entirely about identifying that there are all those speed bumps, and they are looking to smooth them out so we have a smoother ride. That's what it looks like. So, I'm excited to see where they go. It's going to take some time. Let's give them some time, because I want to make sure that we also balance out two very clear competing thoughts that are really common in the space right now. Litany number 1, why didn't they test this? Litany number 2, how is this still in the game? You cannot do both of those things. And if we got here by the idea of things not being thought through enough, well, then let's give them some time to think it through. And if there's something that's so egregious they need to change it, then they can change it. But if we rush it, it could end up being the same or worse. So we just got to be careful. And that means that the devs have a lot of work to do on their plate, and it's going to take a minute for them to get at the right solution. So yeah, it's coming. Speaking of PvP, by the way, Tian has been posting awesome stuff on his Twitter. First of all, I'll read a direct quote. "Thank you all for the feedback. We are planning to make a Merc PvP matchmaking algorithm change for very high rating players, top 1%, so that rating plays much more important role in match building and post-game rating updates compared to other things like levels, abilities, etc. There is a lot of that stuff that only applies to like leaderboard and leaderboard adjacent players. Top 1% means if you're not sure if this is you, it probably isn't you. But for the people that it is, it's very helpful. However, Tian also posted a tier list. And the tier list of individual Merc win rate rankings. The number 1 Merc in the game is Gruul. Huh?
Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah. I mean, and this is because of fire resist. Let's be clear. So his fire resist the equipment is very, very powerful. But also Natalie, Jaina, Vol'jin, 2, 3, 4, and Ragnaros number 5. Not who I expect to see in the top 5. Diablo in 6, Dawn Grasp in 7, Karin in 8. Those are all powerful. By the way, there is going to be a change in the near future where Karin is going to stop going off doing an ability after his reincarnation triggers. So if you kill him before reincarnation, then he will no longer do anything. That's coming soon. Kaizor has confirmed that on the Mercs Discord. We haven't seen that in the game yet, but that is something that is going to happen in the near future. So get ready for that. And I imagine that'll be impactful. That's something, right? But yeah, I didn't expect to see Gruul all the way up top. Now, you look at most of the compositions here on the graphic that Tian shared with us. There's a lot of Karin Diablo, I believe, in every single comp is Karin Diablo. Dawn Grasp is in actually only 2, surprisingly. Blink Fox starting to show up a little bit. But yeah, Karin Diablo is very, very common. So I am unsurprised. And Natalie and Vol'jin also way up there. So, I don't know. Curious to see where this goes.
I'm also not surprised.
Yeah. I think it's pretty clear that Endurance or a Fire Stomp is a powerful thing to do. So yeah, that's Mercs Talk. I think that's actually the end of Mercs Talk except for one bit in the next section. But we have one final news item that's really great.
Yeah, so Alkali started her first day on job with Play Hearthstone. Oh, Alkali. Sorry, Alkali. I was too. I like didn't want to pronounce the last name because I thought I would get that wrong, and so I pronounced their first name
Just
wrong.
Alkali Lake.
Yeah. Or first. Is it even a name? Whatever. She started her
Allie.
first day.
Allie started as community
at Blizzard,
manager.
and we're excited.
She's fantastic. She is the new community manager. This is not the job I posted for, by the way. It's a different one. But she posted that she was applying for this one back in August. Started this past Monday. Blizzard hiring process takes a while. But I think I speak for all of us when I say this is fantastic. She has been an incredible member of the community, and I'm really happy to see her join the team. I have to imagine that having her there will be great for inclusivity, because Allie does not mess around when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, very excited to see her join the team, and I think she's going to do a fantastic job. So Allie, welcome. All right. Ready for a brief tournament talk before we talk about Standard?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's the grand tournament.
All right, it's going to be brief. There are no ladder invites for November and no qualifiers right now. Last qualifiers for the year already went out. The most important thing is a tweet from Hearthstone Esports. I'm going to read this word for word. Hello, we are finalizing the last few details for 2022, and we'll have some information to share in the coming weeks. This means November ladder will not reward any Masters Tour invites. Enjoy the Deadmines. We'll see you at Masters Tour Undercity November 19th. So, last Masters Tour is coming. However, it appears that Abar, the new product manager, program manager, whatever, the new person in charge of Hearthstone Esports, has some ideas about how things could be different. Don't know what Grandmaster's going to look like. Don't know what qualifiers are going to look like. But we'll find out soon, in the coming weeks, which means before the end of November, so probably by Thanksgiving. I am hoping that Hearthstone esports competitors have something to give thanks for by the end of this month, because we could use some changes to the current system. So no qualifiers, ladder just started. The only other competitive announcement that I have is that starting, we're going to take sign-up starting next week and probably start the week after. We're going to do a coin concede listener series for mercenaries. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to do one of those. So, if you were a listener, you want to do some PvP format, we talked about it in the Discord today. It's going to be bring 9 total mercenaries, 6 on the front line, 3 on the sideboard. You play best of 3. You declare your equipment for all 9 ahead of time every week. And then you get into a match, you play your starting 6, and then after each match you can go into the collection and change out 3 of them. And it's freeform, it's not like specialists, they're not predefined deck lists, you can decide inside out whatever you want to do. It can be any combination of your 9 mercs. So, we're going to take signups pretty soon. We're going to start the Monday after. And it'll be fun. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Might have to do this one.
Me too. Gonna play some mercs. DeWolf, if you had level 31 mercs, I'd be extremely impressed. I don't think that's a thing. Alright. But that's the entire tournament talk. And from here, it is time to talk about brand new Standard. You ready, Edel? You ready, Bodicus? Let's go.
So, because of the day that we do this show, last time we had not quite all the cards. We just talked about the commons, and then since then, the cards were announced and put in the game. So that's just kind of the pace we have to deal with mini sets. And yeah, we've gotten to play with these cards a bit. We mentioned earlier some of the things we've been trying. Why don't we start with Mr. Smite, which kind of Leroy, kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes he feels better,
Kinda
sometimes
more.
he feels worse.
I mean,
I kind of missed neutral charge, which is weird.
I mean, I guess he's not getting shadow stepped as much, maybe, as like original Leroy. But I've
Oh.
definitely seen some crazy stuff. Like, I saw there was a Celestial Alignment Druid
Yep.
that was playing Survival of the Fittest, Smite, and all that stuff, trying to kill people.
There's
Did
a
lose to a large smite.
yeah. So how you win with that deck doesn't matter too much, I don't think, because if you survive to Celestial and then stuff, you can do whatever you want. But it's faster than the old way, where you go. The old way you would alignment, and it was Goldshire Knolls mostly, and Cenarian Wards, and then you would just survival. I think there were a couple other minions. But instead, we just survival, smite, and then some number of germinations or jerry-rig carpenters or whatever. Because carpenter's a pirate, and you want to play nourish anyways. It's you can kill it from 30, but celestial alignment in general is not the most effective thing. There are times where you can lose to a poison rogue, where they have a big old sword, and they go smite and then Bloodsail Deckhand, which is the 2/3 that gets plus X attack for your weapons attack. If you've got like a 5.
So Raider?
Raider, yeah.
Deckhand is the 2/1 that gets charged if you have a weapon.
Everything is
That's South Sea
That's
Deckhand.
South Sea Deckhand.
Everything is South Sea or Bloodsail and a Corsair or a Deckhand or a Raider. They just have like this pirate Mad Libs thing where they mix and match the what kind of pirate they are and what their job is as a pirate, and it's getting to be too much. South Seas and Bloodsails and Deckhands and Corsairs and what I don't know. The 2/3 that gets plus attack for your weapon. If you play her with Smite and a big weapon and potentially a Shadow Step, you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, I didn't quite know what was going on at one point, and so I didn't realize what was coming. My opponent played a Raider and stepped it, and I was like, well, that was weird. They just put it in play and Shadow Stepped it. Why would they do that? And then next turn, Smite
You died.
and the free Raider, and I was like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yep.
So, Hat, on a scale of Leroy to Reckless Rocketeer, where do you feel like Mr. Smite lands?
Right in the middle. I honestly feel like it's right in the middle. Smite has done. All right. I have a take. Are you ready for the take? Okay.
I sense a defensive take coming on.
All right. I'm going to start with the caveat. Smite off of Juggernaut is some garbage. Not a fan. Not a big fan at all. Especially when you start with if you have the Juggernaut and you bulwark into Gorehowl Smite or whatever, it does not feel like a game that I had a role in. Not a big fan. Hitting ice blocks into 15 to 20 damage from hand, I'm not about that. If the pool ended up being adjusted so that no Torrents allowed, Mr. Smite cannot be pulled from the Juggernaut, I would not be upset by that. However, here's the take. Mr. Smite is good for control deck, send tweet, let's go. Because here's what happens. If, in current standard, when you were losing from hand, it was 30 damage. Maybe it was Fireballs and Ignites over a couple turns, or was Garrotes, whatever. A lot of damage. Right, so you didn't really have a way to defend against that as a slower strategy. You had to hope you could race. However, if standard is about 5 to 10 damage a turn, for 5 to 6 turns, including a neutral charge minion that you can plan on, good defensive techniques against that strategy is taunting and healing. And you know what kind of decks like to taunt and heal? Your controlling style decks. Your controlling warriors, your quest shamans that I've been playing, it's a lot of fun. You can Canal Slogger people back, you can cookie and hit with the lifesteal thing. It's by making Hearthstone about minion damage again and incremental damage over time, you can defend against that with taunts and healing. You cannot defend against Fireballs or Garrotes with taunts and healing, and Mr. Smite is good against the full from hand decks with your Fireballs and your Garrotes. I don't know if it's good enough, and if Mage was nerfed, I wouldn't be upset. I know it's a tier 3 deck, I know it's not winning that much, and I died to a Solarian today, so nerf it into ground, please. But a card like Smite, and by the way, this is standard. Wild, I'm not touching Wild, neither is Blizzard. Make peace with that. It's that format, the tipping point is beyond tipped. There are too many cards for that format to be healthy at this point. But in standard, having a card like Mr. Smite around, you can play directly around it. You know what's coming. Yes, there's some interactions that I don't love, and I don't love that Poison Rogue can do so much damage, but it's not actually good, and those scenarios feel rare. I don't love that it pops up off Juggernaut, but those are rare, and if they nerfed it, I also wouldn't be upset. They just took him out of the pool, that's fine. You can go to the Tauren-only pool, as opposed to the Pirate pool. But I'm very happy to see that you win by attacking with minions again. And I'm very happy to see that means you just do damage over time, and that means healing is good, and if healing is good, then maybe we're going to end up doing the Amulet of Undying back a bunch of Light Shower Elementals people will concede. I lost a couple games this week to Big DH, because I was playing an aggressive deck, and then they Proving Grounds out 2 Coil of Fang Warlords that hit each other, and then my opponent had a couple 5/9 taunts. Like, if Mage and Garrote Rogue are defining the format, that deck never exists. But you can play anti-minion decks right now and do okay. There still is the Mage, there's still the Rogue. I like that Smite exists, and I think he's at a power level I'm much happier at. 5 versus 6 mana is huge. And maybe that there can be nudges done to Smite here or there, but having played with him as well, I put him in Aggro Druid. Right? Like, he's fine. He's a fine card. The outlier scenarios are with other pirates in decks that are feasting on a really unrefined meta right now. And maybe some of the interactions with some other pirates, like with maybe the Raider Poison Rogue thing is problematic. Maybe it's not. I haven't found it to be a huge problem, but also I wouldn't love losing to it. And again, off the Juggernaut, it's just too much. So outside of those scenarios, I think that I'm glad this is in Standard.
Yep. I'm really hopeful that we'll get to see kind of ideas churning again in terms of people develop the aggro decks, and then we see the control decks come out to stop them, and the cycle will continue. It's going to depend a little bit on Garrote Rogue. If people really bring that back, certainly people are going to have to be really good to be able to deal with more from hand from the aggro decks. It might just be a top of ladder problem because Garrote Rogue doesn't really perform at the lower parts of the ladder. But it would be disappointing if Legend remains just like a ton of Garrote Rogue. Because
Warrior is often good against it, but it depends on the Warrior deck. And I don't know if you can play the kind of Warrior that's all that good there, especially now, but it's, if the format comes down to, before the mini set, the best deck at 11x MMR at top 1k was Control Quest Sourfang Warrior. And if that's the kind of deck that's the best deck in the format, and that's what used to beat Garrote Rogue, and the counter is the narrow Mage deck, and you end up fighting against other minion decks, and maybe you get fatigued by a Libram Paladin, maybe you get raced under by a timely composting from a Taunt Druid, or maybe you beat all these other minion decks, that's kind of okay for the format to be about. Until you end up with Control Quest Warrior and Mirrors, where it's Juggernaut RNG deciding the games, that I would be less thrilled about. I would be less excited about that.
Well, and actually, that's why I'm kind of hopeful that, we'll get sort of the cycle churning again.
Yeah.
That if Smite makes the aggro decks enough better against Garrote Rogue and Quest Mage, etc., then we can get people sort of choosing their good and bad matchups without it feeling like one piece of the pie isn't fully there. We couldn't have Zoo for so long because it just couldn't finish the game. And now you at least have this neutral 6 damage burst. And Zoo got some other powerful tools as well. But it feels like there were a few decks that really relied on Leroy to close out the game, and just having that back in some capacity really helps the aggro decks put more pressure on things like Garrote Rogue and the Quest Mages. And so we kind of have that circle back. I think we didn't realize until we lost it how important it was having a card like Leroy for just aggressive decks.
Yep. Also, I'm surprised at how important Voidwalker was, but then they brought it back and they made it brown instead of purple. Voidwalker and Flame Imp belong together. I'm happy to play with Shardle and Druid. I am happy to do that. But also, I Come on. Let purple have this. Now, purple did get Purple Plunderer, which we'll talk about in a second, because, oh boy, that card is a card. Oh, man. That card's something.
Well, let's first talk about. So you mentioned the big demon.
Wait, I don't even. So what? So Hat just gets to go on this long spiel, and I get no response.
I'm sorry.
I see how you guys just both talk and talk.
No,
and
we
talk.
just
Because I haven't
opened it up.
freaking played Standard. I see how it is.
we
thought
did
you
that
were
out of.
clear where you stood.
Wait, hold
I'm
on,
sorry about that.
Bodicus. We did that out of Smite. Huh? Huh? Huh?
I don't even want to respond now. Jesus Christ. I
That's
just
my
feel
move.
like Hat is very much misrepresenting his stance on Smite.
What was my stance? I forgot.
When it was first announced. Well, Edelweiss in our chat, the first thing Edelweiss said is Leroy's back in Standard-ish, and Hat says, you mean Reckless Rocketeer is back, and you want to try to say that frickin' Smite is somewhere in between Leroy and Reckless Rocketeer.
Do you remember
like,
what
right
we
in
used
the
to do with
middle.
Leroy?
I'm sorry, but no,
Do
you
you
don't
remember
get
what
to
we
get
used to
away. You do not get to get away with calling Smite a Reckless Rocketeer and just, do your wordsmithing thing and make it sound like you have a great take on him. By the way, I don't think that Smite should necessarily get nerfed, but Smite is significantly better than a Reckless Rocketeer, and especially when used in conjunction with Juggernaut, whether it comes into play off of the Juggernaut or from your hand. And trying to deny that fact, and yes, it promotes all this positive things in the Standard community, but trying to just belay all these facts just to push away this low rating on it that I don't get to bug you about as much, because usually you're pretty accurate about cards.
That's false too.
I
But
just
hold on,
feel like-
that is absolutely false. I am wrong about most cards most of the time.
Okay,
It
you're
didn't-
not as
wasn't I-
wrong. You're not as wrong as I am about cards, though.
Okay, it's here. Bodicus. I was wrong about Smite. I underrated him a little bit. I said he just goes in the aggressive pirate warrior, not sure about the control, but he belongs in rogue. I've been playing him in druid. I've been happy with him in druid. I think that he goes in more decks than I think that he did. However, Leroy rotated out with DOD. Do you remember what we were doing back then? Galakron into Leroy, free Kronk, step Leroy, step Leroy. We ain't doing that no more. That ain't what's happening this time.
Thankfully. And I will agree that Smite is not necessarily on the power level of Leroy, but I don't think as far off as saying it's somewhere in between Leroy and Reckless Rocketeer, considering how many different places we've definitely seen Smite, and how he goes into different things, and how much I always complain about powerful, legendary, neutral minions.
I mean, it's a different card, right? More expensive, so you can't do, as filthy of same turn things, particularly when we consider Shadow Step. But I think the ceiling is higher in a different way because of the pirate tag and the synergy with other pirates. So it gets to be a more interesting card than just Leroy. Leroy had a downside in theory, right? You couldn't play it on curve because you gave them 2 1/1s and it was a 6/2, so it did nothing. Mr. Smite, you can play it on curve just as a threat, and you can potentially run it in, some weird N'Zoth deck, right? Where it's your only pirate, and then you have 2 circus amalgams. And when you get them in the death pool for N'Zoth, it brings those back and they all have charge, right? It's a much more versatile card than Leroy was, and so I like it much more in sort of the modern Standard.
The N'Zoth thing is super cool. I've seen that before.
My
That's cool.
forecast is that we're going to be okay with Smite now. A lot of people are going to complain and call for nerfs, and those are unfounded. But I will say that in the future, I think we will be complaining about Smite. I think that it is the type of card that will have a bad reputation down the line, because he's going to end up in more places than we want him to be, and it's going to end in a play pattern that is consistently annoying, that finishes out games that people are going to dislike. I think that it's fine now because it's like fresh and we get to see all these different uses, and like it's definitely an interesting card and it has uses, and like, yeah, we haven't had charge in a while, but I think that there is a future with which Smite is around too long and people are going to get annoyed dying to it, especially the use cases where you get it off a Juggernaut or you play it like you just get a relatively big pirate off of Juggernaut and play it, and it's an extra 10 damage and they die a turn sooner than they should have, which is kind of the use case I was thinking, is just that taking a turn off of kill windows, it, like, when you're talking about playing a Juggernaut deck, like Hat was saying, like, you don't need to find ways to win once you have a Juggernaut in play, but like shaving off a turn where I think has a lot of value in the majority of games of Hearthstone, because there's so much crazy stuff that can happen in any one game of Hearthstone that giving your opponent an extra turn can oftentimes cost you the game. So like having this extra win condition in decks like that run that, as well as all these other ways to use him, is definitely at least warrants a bit of caution, right?
I have a response
Yeah.
that's both a point in you that both reinforces your point and refutes your point. Because if you take what you just said and you replace the words Mr. Smite with Alex Drowse the Lifebinder 4 months ago, it's the same conversation. However, Mr. Smite costs 33% less. They made Alex not as playable by making better, faster stuff. At a certain point, where can that go? Right? Because if we get to the point where Mr. Smite isn't good enough anymore because there's better, faster stuff, I am concerned. But Alex was a little bit on the slower side, and again, interesting card, ended games, play pattern that wasn't necessarily the most fun after a while. People started complaining about it. Neutral legendary, you know. We've been through this rodeo before, but also if the cost of the cards that we're talking about keeps getting lower and lower, then I'm not sure where that ends up.
I think anything that becomes a consistent finisher is going to be a card that people sort of focus on as, oh, I'm tired of losing to this, right? Leroy was a finisher for a very long time, and then they Hall of Famed it. And, you know, they had Hall of Fame Doomguard for Zoo as well. You know, we've got this issue of people don't like being killed by the same thing over and over and over. Thing Smite has going for it, it's only going to be in standard for like a little over a year. So honestly, I didn't really get that tired of Alex. I know some people did. You can't please everyone. And I think that this is a card that, for those of us that really miss Leroy, we're super happy to have it back. And for those people that didn't like dying from that kind of burst, they're not happy to see, charge back in this way. And I think it's ultimately healthy for the metagame to, allow decks like Zoo to exist again. And if a change needs to be made, I think that they will make it.
Yeah. It's too early to say, right? And as of right now, we're 2 days in. For some reason, the neutral aggressive card that deals damage is good in the new janky metagame. Shocking that the card that kills people is good when people are trying all sorts of crazy stuff. I imagine that things will stabilize a bit, but I imagine that Smite will stay in decklist. I don't think it's a major design problem or a mistake, and like I said earlier, I think it makes control decks better. But it's a neutral finisher. Can't always do that. That can be scary. And it's not just a Leroy thing, neutrals in general. I'm going to call back not Leroy. Not going to call back to, I'm going to call back to Ziliax. When it becomes the right thing to do, just throw a card in a bunch of decks. And you see it multiple games, multiple archetypes, and it's good aggressively and defensively. And Smite's not good defensively, so let's not go nuts there. But You really don't want a Ziliax. You really don't want to make those things. Really don't want a Keleseth. Now, Smite does not influence your entire game by being drawn early. It's not a Keleseth. But you don't want something that every aggressive deck feels like I have to play this and then I have to build around it. You don't want to do that either. I don't think Smite is that. But we'll see where we land. Still way too early to figure it out, and there's absolutely the possibility that Smite becomes format defining in a way that we get tired of. But we're only going to have this format for a month anyway, so I don't know. See what happens.
Hopefully, I hope it. I honestly kind of hope it ends up almost similar to where Zephrys landed up, which was a card I was very scared of. That had issues for other reasons, for many other reasons that were not the reason I was scared of it. So, like, I don't think Zephrys was ever really to the point where people were complaining about it because of power level reasons. And I think, but it was still used fairly considerably. So, I like the card. It's just I'm always worrisome of neutral legendaries. I think it always warrants at least a bit of caution when you're talking about neutral legendaries, because if a card like this ends up showing up all the time, it's going to get old real fast, and people are going to be upset about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could also make the argument for Samura right now, and Samura, since he's been printed, pretty swingy, and the pre-nerf Mancrick getting 310'd, that was a lot. That was a lot of stats. It happens less often now, and I think that Mancrick and Samura are both in fine spots. But yeah, you got to be careful about a swingy effect that's in multiple classes at the same time. So yeah, but we should talk about what new stuff we've seen, because there's some new stuff out there.
Yeah, I'm worried about a swinging effect that's in one class, which is the Demon Hunter deck. I faced it a couple of times.
What is
I
this
hope
deck?
it's not
Explain it. What is it?
consistent. Okay, you mentioned it earlier. This is a deck around the new Demon Hunter card that's 6 mana, and basically, remember Duel from Paladin, where you pulled a minion from your deck and a minion from their deck, and they fought? Well, it's that, except both minions are from your deck, which seems bad, right? Because they just kill each other. Except the minions in this deck are Scrapyard Colossus and Imprisoned Antaean and Coilfang Warlord. And so when you have someone play this card, sometimes they'll hit Imprisoned Antaean and the other big minion. And so when they fight, the Antaean goes dormant, so they don't actually fight, and they just have a big minion. And then sometimes their Coilfang hits their Scrapyard Colossus, and they still have 2 enormous things afterward. And it's Recruit is back, and sometimes it crushes you because you weren't prepared for dealing with really enormous things on turn 6. I guess maybe you were supposed to kill them before turn 6, but yeah, if you were going to smite them to death, it's going to be hard to get through those taunts.
Yeah, I don't think this deck is real, but there have been a couple. There was a game I played, Base Tank was watching, where I made sure that she knew she was a witness, where I got coin provinged into provinged as the aggro druid. The first one was Burning Blade Acolyte and Scrapyard Colossus, and the second one was Coilfang Warlord and the other Burning Blade Acolyte. I lost that game. I left. So, I hope that sucks, because that did suck. And it has all the trappings of a bait day 1 deck, but also so did Big Priest, and Big Priest didn't get better but stayed played, and so I'm hoping that this strategy ends up not being great, because the play experience is kind of not great. I don't love it. But interesting. I'm glad people found a way to make the card work already. But yeah, not in love with how that goes out, but it's just Demon Hunter being a little different. It is the only version of Big DH that's ever won a game, so something. However, there is another deck going around that I'm very excited to see. Bodicus, do you see this? It's Zoo
I have
O'Clock.
not seen this deck. I have not seen this deck. Zoo is always good though, right? Except it hasn't been for a while.
Zoo is
Zoo
always
used
good,
to
except
always
when it
be
sucks,
good.
yes.
Zoo used to remember when Zoo just always you could just build Zoo in like basically every standard for the first. How long of Hearthstone? How long's Hearthstone been out? I don't even remember.
I think it was the
for
first
the
few years
first-
until they rotated Doomguard.
Yeah, until Doomguard got rotated, like Zoo, you could always just play Zoo, and it was anywhere from the best deck to a tier 2 deck, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, and then they lost Doomguard and Soulfire and Leroy, and they
Yeah.
just kept losing their reach until they couldn't close out the game anymore, particularly when Rush became so ubiquitous across classes. And the times that we have seen Zoo come up again in recent years, it has almost felt more combo-y than anything else, because it was all focused around Hand of Gul'dan and some way of discarding Hand of Gul'dan and just like drawing your whole deck and doing crazy silly things that way and Flesh Giants. And this feels a lot more like what we think of with a Zoo deck. It's board based, but it has good card draw, and you tap, you're trying to get minions on the board. We've got Shady Bartender on the top end, and then Mr. Smite to close it out. Mr. Smite being our sort of Leroy. But I'm really happy to see the combination of Wicked Shipments and Shady Bartender together, because I did feel that was potentially quite powerful. I'm a little surprised not to see the 4-mana minion that draws a spell and you take damage equal to its cost, because that felt pretty good in my games.
So, like, there are a lot of different ways to build this. This is a very prototypical build because the deck is absolutely going under a lot of refinement right now. There are a bunch of different ways to build it. I have seen people, there's one list that I tried where someone was trying to fit in both Hullbreaker and Hand of Gul'dan at the same list. I took 12 die, deleted the deck. That's not, I don't know if you can do that. But there are some Nightshade Matron lists. You can still Flesh Giant, like the old Glare Zoo. Those usually play the quest, but not always. But I know Matt V. Mad Thanos on Twitter is like top 10 right now with that. With a quest zoo-ish list. It's not really even zoo-ish, just like Turbo Giants. But the list that we have up here on screen this is zoo. This is like you play a bunch of demons, then you make the demons bigger, then you hit your opponent with the demons. All about it. And Shadowblade Slinger. Prize Plunder is good to the surprise of nobody. And with Raise Dead, oh my god, it's bananas. Oh, it's so ridiculous when you Raise Dead it back. Yeah. And I did have a game where Demonic assaulted on 4 and then bartendered on 5. Ooh. Whew. Very zooey. So, I don't know how good this is going to be, but apparently HS Replay is tracking the stats. They say that the archetype is gaining some traction and is getting a little better. It's still very, very early on. And like the list that we have posted here is Traveling Merchants. I doubt that is the right card to run. Seems like a card that's good when you're way ahead, but like, probably not. I don't even know if we need Spirit Jailers if we're not running Flesh Giants, and maybe we should run Flesh Giants anyways, because we have so much self-damage stuff with the Raised Deads and the Tour Guides and the Bloodbound Imps and so on, and Bloodbound Imp Minari Masher is so much damage and life gain. I think like that ends up being 3 ticks, because the self-damage hits you, then you heal for the self-damage, and then you hit and you heal again. So maybe Flesh Giant just belongs. I'm just glad that this is something that's even on the table.
Yeah, so the deck list that I had kind of made day one was basically like this, but I ended up taking out Demonic Assault, and I didn't have Traveling Merchant, and I had Hullbreaker and Flesh Giants. And so cool things going on there. Hullbreaker for a zoo deck, your spells basically cost nothing. You draw Raise Dead and it doesn't hurt you at all. You draw a 1-mana spell and it's the least amount of damage you can take for still ticking down your Flesh Giants, which is quite nice. And if you would run out of spells to fetch, you can trade the Wicked Shipment back so that it gets you more. I had times where I just played make 6 imps and then Shady Bartender on 6. I just had like a full board of 3/3s, felt like I had really insane refill. The giants got discounted very nicely. And since you don't have the Nightshade Matron Hand of Gul'dan stuff, you don't ever have that weird issue of, well, I can't play my Matron because it's going to hit the Flesh Giant instead of my Hand of Gul'dan. Like, I'm so happy to be done with that crap. And Hullbreaker drawing 2 cards is really, really nice. Because it, doesn't feel like you really have time to tap a lot of times. Hullbreaker just filled that gap really well for me, and particularly if you like raise dead and get back a Hullbreaker, it's just a lot of card draw.
Yep. And I think there's opportunity. Maybe we find room for Guardian, Og Merchant, or Broom somewhere. Like that could very easily end up being the right thing to do to beat Taunt Druids. Jay Correct's mentioning in the chat that raised getting back shipment imps is kind of not great, kind of troublesome. So we, hopefully not. But, I'm glad that Zoo is under development. By the way, you know what else is under development that I'm even more excited about? You seen this list yet, Bot? Casey made a rogue, a miracle rogue, an actual rogue, a rogue that does rogue things. This is not Garrote. Yes, we play Contact. Yes, we play Octobot. But it's just a rogue deck with an Edwin and a Leroy equivalent. It's
Why is it better than Garrote Rogue? Or is it better than Garrote Rogue? Is it just
absolutely
different
not
for different sake?
Not for different sake. It's you get to this. We play for board. This deck plays for board, right? It's very much like Baron's Miracle Rogue, but lower to the ground. You play Scabs, you play New Edwin, you play Mr. Smite, you got your Wicked Stabs, whatever. You got his list playing Mancrick. There's another list going around that has preps over the Wicked Stabs. Instead of Mancrick to play his Potion of Illusion, you end up just having crap for whatever. There's Garrote is probably a better deck. It's more streamlined. But this feels more like Rogue. You play more stuff. By the way, Edwin, the way Edwin works, the new Edwin Defies Kingpin. Battlecry, draw a card. When you play that card, give Edwin +2/+2 and repeat this effect. This buffs the card that you draw, not Edwin himself. So, if you play Edwin and then Shadow Step him, and then keep playing the card on the right, it buffs him in your hand. That is intended, it is not a bug. Because the buff is not to Edwin, it's to the card that he first draws. That card gains the effect, find your Edwin, give it +2/+2, draw a card, and pass this along until the end of the turn. So if you go Edwin, Shadow Step, and then start playing cards on the right, you have an Edwin that grows in your hand. Even if you Secret Passage, it still finds the Edwin, still buffs the Edwin. So you can end up, sometimes, with a really large Edwin in your hand, and then a Mr. Smite. And we see how that goes. He does not keep the buffs prior to the Shadow Step. He gets buffed back to he gets returned to a 4/4 in your hand, a 2-mana 4/4 off Shadow Step. But then he can keep getting buffs from there. So.
Wait, so what? How does what?
You can buff Edwin in your hand.
I understand that part. But it's just during the turn that you Shadow Step him, right? Like the effect only happens the turn that you Shadow Step him.
It's after you play him and step him, and he doesn't keep any of the buffs prior to the Shadow Step. That works how you'd think it would. Just if you bounce him and you keep playing cards marked with Edwin's chain effect, right? It's like Fireheart, right? When you play the Fireheart card, this is Gadgets and Fireheart.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So if you want to make a giant 2-mana Edwin in your hand,
I want to play those.
But also, like, that doesn't come up much. You just play this deck, and then you play minions on curve. You've got, like, Foxy Vanessa on 2 or whatever, and then you kill people. And you just hit them with small minions, and you neophyte them, and you have Field Contact Octo. It's just like how Baron's Miracle Rogue used to be, in that, like, you could do Tenwu Alex, or you can just hit people in the face. That's all we're doing. So yeah, it's, I played it, it feels like playing Rogue again. Like, Garrote feels Rogue adjacent. You're drawing a lot of cards, you're cheating a bunch of mana, but this, like, we're playing for board, we're doing some chip damage, we're hitting with the dagger, we have, you can do, like, Foxy, there was a turn I had, where I went Field Contact, Foxy, draw a card. Shadow Step the Foxy, replay the Foxy, draw a card. A Scabs, Cutter, Butter, draw a card. And then I did some stuff, and then my opponent lost. It was extremely enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. I would strongly recommend it.
Now Edwin just is the auctioneer.
He can be. Field contact is still better, right? Like, and there are absolute times where
Sure.
you Edwin and you draw something that costs more than 2, and then the turn is over. Like, that will happen sometimes. Yeah, it's not
Well,
busted,
I'm still
but
Still
it's good.
excited.
still sounds cool, but
It
I'm
is.
actually I'm very excited about that. I'm glad that you talked about it. But this next line item, this has me interested.
Yes. So, Edel, what were
the
you saying?
Death Rattle Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just saying that I'm excited to play the rogue. But yeah, Death Rattle Hunter, I saw it a little bit, and there were some interactions that I did not realize worked the way they did. For me, that includes someone playing a Mok'Nathal Lion copying the Rat King, and then it turned into a Rat King when it died, which is not how I expected that to work. And then they played the parrot that played the last Death Rattle, which again was Rat King, and it turned into a Rat King.
Yeah.
Whereas
The
I thought
Death Rattle is make a dormant Rat King. That's what the Death Rattle basically is.
Right. Whereas I was thinking the lion would go dormant or the parrot would go dormant. And yeah, it doesn't work that way. So there's a lot of ways of getting extra Rat Kings now, which makes the deck better than I thought. I still think too early to call on whether this is a viable deck, but certainly the Blast Fisher does a crap ton of damage. Hat, it sounds like you have a story about this.
So, I was playing against my buddy, the last champ. I was playing the big DH because I wanted to try it. Don't worry. Didn't play it for much longer after this game. It was a good game. I liked it. It was a good game. I had kept Immolation Aura because I was against a hunter, and it was turn 3. There was a rodent nest in play. So they had a Wolpertinger, I think, a couple other minions. I had an Immolation Aura, so I poked the rodent nest. Immolation Aura cleared the board. Then they played the parrot, the monstrous macaw or the monstrous parrot, and they got back 5/1/1s. So I'm like, okay. I played my second Immolation Aura. Then they played another one. I'm like, okay, they have a full board. I was like, all right, well, I guess I will go Proving Grounds. Coin Proving Grounds. The only way that this is bad for me is if I go Coin Proving Grounds and hit Burning Blade, Acolyte, and Antaeon. And then I hit Burning Blade, Acolyte, and Antaeon. So my opponent ended up with 6 beasts in play, and then played Defias Blastfisher. For those that don't remember, it does 2 damage, then repeats for every beast you control. My opponent went face with all 7 ticks, and dealt me 14. I barely won the game because they missed lethal. That was the only reason I won the game. But I got domed for 14 by a Defias Blastfisher. By the way, the animation is super fast, and it's like a machine gun. And then I took 14,
That's nice.
and it was a lot. So, I don't know if the deck is good, but I know that it sure felt powerful that game, and there's something there, and it probably doesn't have enough pieces, but it's closer than I think we realize.
Yeah, I
Sounds
think
interesting.
specifically getting to play the parrot for another nest is quite powerful. Getting that instant board refill.
Yeah.
But
There's-
in addition to
Go ahead.
some newer stuff, there's also just some older things that got better. We've mentioned how Cannoneer and Smite obviously just slot right into the aggressive quest warriors. You're going to be seeing that a lot. I know in my initial experimentations, that was what I was seeing the most of by far. I think because it was the thing that got the most obviously better. Taunt Druid as well got the new 1/3 or 3/1, whichever side you play it as. The choose one drop that just makes it immediately better. You have a note here about Sow and Cherry, or sow the seeds.
So, okay, so first of all, Shardle, the 1/3. Besides being an insane Voidwalker on 1, just a gentle reminder to all people listening that that Oracle of Elune copies post-transform. So you can play 1 mana and get a Reckless Mummy. 1 mana, rush for 3 twice. It's good. I've done it. My opponent conceded on turn 4. Just throwing that out there, just making sure that everyone's aware of that. Second of all, sow and Jerry. So there's sow the seeds, sow the soil, sow the soil. 1 mana, you either get a 2/2 or +1/+0. Jerry Ray Carpenter, draws you a choose 1 spell and splits it. This is the only choose 1 spell in your deck. 2 mana, draw an Enchanted Raven and half a Mark of the Lotus. Okay. That is acceptable. So, I don't know if that's worth running, but I do know that you effectively have a 3 mana 4/3 with the buff in hand, or a 4 mana 6/3 that buffs the rest of your board. It's okay. Draws you a card, gets you a couple relevant things, and if you end up doing that twice, then you end up with kind of a Savage Roar in your hand. And I don't know, Savage Roar is pretty good. And you can end up using some combination of Park Panther and Arbor and the half of so to push damage. It's a new development. I don't know if it's going to end up being the right thing to do, but I know that it seems reasonably competitive. And just generally, Taunt Druid got better because the meta got jankier as people are trying stuff out, and also we got a Void Walker / Lightning Bolt. So, yeah.
Jerry has such a cool animation.
He does.
The animation when you draw and it cracks it like a walnut.
Yes, I like it.
I haven't gotten the chance to see it yet, so now I'm excited to try that. But I've mostly been playing Paladin, which got, it got better. I mean, it was already pretty good, but it got better. All of the new cards seem great. I think the one I've played the least has been the 2/8 Taunt, which is more of a controlling card. But I played a bunch with the macaw. I think it's a macaw. I mean, whatever. The bird. They're all birds. Played the most with the bird. Can confirm 4 mana to play a Hand of a Doll again and just get a 5/5 and draw a card. Has felt pretty great. I tried it out.
Have you gotten an 11/12 yet? 11/12. 11/12s are sick.
With Blessing of Authority or with replaying?
4 mana 11/12s are nice.
Yeah. I haven't done that yet, but I'm sure it's pretty good.
I got blown out. I was playing against a Libram Paladin that was playing the new 3 mana spell. The make something a 1/1 and yoink its stats into something in your hand. Yeah. They targeted. I was. This is the second game I played with Big DH. I played 2 games with this deck. It was very eventful. The second game, my Enteian woke up. They zooped it and took 9/5 in stats, and they gave it to their Devout Pupil, which was very large. It was a 14/11 for 0 mana, and it had Divine Shield and Taunt. I did not win that game. So, yeah.
I've enjoyed that card in Hand Buff Pally, as the only holy spells I think I had were Hand of a Doll and that. So it was pretty consistent that you could get it. And I ended up cutting the Parrot, I think, because couldn't consistently be able to play it early. But that new buff card is really nice, and it's kind of good to have Mr. Smite as something to buff in hand. I run right now 1 Battle Master and then Mr. Smite, and it can be pretty great to have some, 4-dragon or 4-dring ticks, whatever, to get +5/+5 for popping a Divine Shield.
4-dragon.
4-dragon, yeah. 4-dragon.
No relation to 4-drings. They're just both paladins.
Yeah. Right.
What do all paladins
Yeah,
look the
you
same
can
to
get a lot of stats onto Mr. Smite and close games out that way. Very satisfying.
Yeah, I built this deck in the because I didn't want to look for a deck, or I couldn't find a deck list or whatever. So I built it in the mobile client. And when you build decks in the mobile client, you start off in Paladin cards. And I just started putting in Paladin cards, and then I ran out of. I had 1 card left, and I got to the end of the Paladin library. And at the end of the Paladin library is the 7/5 that says if your deck is all Paladin cards, it gets a lot of stuff. And it was pretty good, I will say. But that card's pretty good. And also, big minions are big and do a lot of killing of things. So I enjoy. I just made like Libram Paladin with also Blessing of Authorities, and my opponents died.
Yep. It's good. Paladin cards are strong right now. There's some new cards in a blue class.
Oh, Elemental Shaman? Or I guess it wouldn't have to be Elemental Shaman, but Elemental Shaman got Macaw.
It's good. Also, Bolner is core now.
Yay!
Yeah. You just play Bolner. I played Bolner. I queued into Ego yesterday, and Ego had Bolner, and then I think not a Forgeborn. I think had a Kindling going on, and just played like Menacing Nimbus into a generated Menacing Nimbus, and suddenly had a sprint. Like it was just Bolner into like I think it was turn 1 Kindling, turn 2 Bolner, turn 3 Nimbus into Nimbus, and that was 4 elementals generated and added to their hand. Like it's ridiculous, so much. So yeah, and then Macaw, I was playing Taunt Druid yesterday, and I got Earth Revenanted, and I was like, all right, well that was bad, but I can rebuild. And then I got Macaw Earth Revenanted, and it's like, did that need to happen again? My opponent thought it did. I lost the game. It was good. Powerful.
Cookie also just seems like a card you just want to put in decks. Like I could definitely see it not fitting, but like it just seems like a lot of stuff for a 3-mana minion.
So you don't put
Like,
an Elemental Shaman. You don't put an Elemental.
You wouldn't love a 2/3 lifesteal, like a 3-mana 2/3 lifesteal, but when it adds a 2/3 lifesteal, like it just automatically equips what was the Demon Hunter weapon?
Eldraki Warblades, the unnerfed one.
Unnerfed Eldraki Warblades. Even though you don't have a lot of ways, you're not like Demon Hunter that has a bunch of ways to give you more attack power. It just seems like a lot of stuff for one card.
So remember that Ellie Shaman is a Cage Match Custodian deck right now, and they want to have a hammer or a gavel or a bigger hammer. But there is a deck playing Cookie that is good, and it's Quest Shaman is good again. This has been one of the better decks that I've played over the past couple days, because in addition to maybe Cookie, the big addition that you get is Multicaster. This is the 4-mana 3/4 neutral that draws a card for each spell school you've played this game. So you add in Primordial Studies. You have Serpent Shrine and Bloom for nature. You cut Investment Opportunity for the Primordial Studies. And then you have Perpetual Flame for the fire. And then you end up drawing a bunch of cards. And the deck is fun and good again, and you still definitely feel the nerfs to both Perp Flame and to getting to Brukan. Games take a little longer. I lost to a Taunt Druid yesterday because Perp Flames were in the bottom 10 cards of my deck, and even though I got to Brukan, they just kept pressuring and pressuring and pressuring, even though I had a lot of clear and life gain. And it's a good deck again, and it's fun, and you get to Canal Slogger to flip the board and beat some warriors, and it's what Hearthstone's all about.
Yeah, I think Multicaster is going to be one of those cards that is perhaps a bit of a slow burn in terms of how we're going to see it, because it'll take people a while to realize what decks it's going to be strong in. But even if you're only drawing 2 cards, like 4 mana for a 3/4 draw 2 is a good rate as card draw goes. Pretty solid. And if you're getting 3 cards, as you can in Shaman, you can in Mage, and I believe you also can potentially in Warlock. We might see some multicasters kind of making their way into, specifically, I think, more controlling decks, or at least slower in some capacity, because they're able to run all these spells from different spell schools. So I'm really excited to see what kinds of things it enables. Personally, rather than Shaman, I will try this Quest Shaman for sure, but I'm trying to make a not Quest Mage functional. I know it seems crazy, but I'm trying to do just like a spell damage mage again with Edwin, and you've got spells of different schools, so maybe we can have the card draw be Cram Session and Multicaster, and that will be enough card draw, and hopefully it's just faster being able to have the spell damage out of the gate instead of jumping through the hoops of the whole quest thing. May come to nothing, but I'm excited to try it out.
Yeah. We already mentioned Poison Rogue I had at the bottom of the show notes here, and then there are a few decks that you didn't get new stuff, and they're still here. Played against a lot of mages today. The deck isn't, academically, I think we know the deck isn't that good. Playing against it, I'm ready to not do that no more. I'm ready. It's been 2 expansions. I'm all set. It's okay for that deck to be worse now. I gave it my seal of approval.
Because I'm in the same boat as you, but I feel like every time I get the quest that's like play 30 spells, I'm like, well, I know what deck I could just play, and then it's just going to play 30 spells because that's all the deck does is play spells. So like I kind of just play it, and I'm like, this is fine. Like it wins enough, but I also don't need to be playing it. I would play something else, but this is just like my most efficient way to complete that quest.
I've played the deck plenty of times. Like it's not bad, and when I play it, I feel like I lose more than I win, but not by a lot, and I could be doing more, but it's just I don't feel compelled by the play experience. Some people do, and I'm not here to judge it. And I don't know. I'm just kind of over that experience. It's just not all that fun to go through as the opponent.
I don't really know what it would even take to push that deck out, right? Is it Incanter's Flow that's the issue? Is it Refreshing Spring Water? Is it the quest itself? The quest doesn't inherently make you play all spells, but that's all people are doing with it. I feel like I would enjoy it more if they weren't playing all spells, but there's other incentives for doing so. I kind of wish we could see what the quest mage was like with minions, because multicaster seems like it's tailor-made for a quest mage, right? It almost seems like, oh, here's some card draw for the quest mage, but they don't need it.
But so the issue is that quest mage isn't good, and the only way to make it good is to maximize the mana cheating off of Spring Water and Flow. Because otherwise the deck isn't actually all that effective without Spring Water and Flow, without the mana cheating. And if you remove the mana cheating by putting minions in the deck, it just doesn't work.
I mean, it honestly seems like it was meant to be a controller, a more controlling kind of deck, where you're playing these spells from different spell schools and slowly completing the quest until eventually you get this big reward, and you can finish the game with ignites because you'll never run out of them.
What are mages' late game control cards right now?
Well, that's the thing. That's why it's so weird that we've got all this big spell support, and our big spells are Flame Strike and Deep Freeze and Grand Finale.
Mask. Don't forget the mask.
I was looking in duels, and it seems like a way more hospitable environment for the big spell mage cards.
Yeah, because you actually have stuff to do. We don't have a Power of Creation. We don't even have a Yogg box. There's no big spell that's worth going out of the way for. There's no Dragon Keeper Alana equivalent. There's no Dragon's Fury. We've had these decks before, but there's no real late game payoff here, and all of our stuff is so slow if we don't just pack our deck with cheap spells.
On those
God,
things
we don't have Yogg box, by the way.
I'm not saying that I want that back. That's not what I said. Do not try and pin that on me. It's not what I said.
But in duels right now are Dragon's Fury and Alana, all that big spell stuff, it's there. Meteor, we don't have something like Meteor. We don't even have Blizzard.
Yeah.
So those board clears, those big spell board clears that we would expect just aren't around for those cards. And the quest incentives are instead just turbo it out and play Cram Session. and Cram Session was Scholomance. So I'm like kind of optimistic or just like waiting for the Scholomance and that whole year of stuff to go away from Mage, and we can sort of see what the new Mage stuff is going to be like, because it feels like we haven't gotten to really see any new cards besides just the quest card itself, because everything from Scholomance in that year has just been what we've been doing with Mage.
You think
I'm
they're
be
going to
so
leave this for
happy to
5
never
months?
see it. I'm going to be so happy to not see another Cram Session, by the way.
I mean,
That card is just like either nearly useless or ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know if this deck is going to stay for 5 months. I hope it's not, and I hope that's because of active intervention. Like, the only way to make this not a thing in the play rate that it's at, the win rate doesn't matter right now, because it's not above 50% currently at this very moment. It is a tier 3 deck at this very moment, and was for almost all of this entire expansion. But people are still playing it. They need to make it, like, feel worse for people to give it up. And you can do that, right? You can absolutely do that. I think that if I were thinking about the ways to do it, if you put Flurry to 1, Fire Sale to 2 damage, and like that enough would be a start. And from there, you could add another mana to other cards if you want. You can just put mana wherever you want. You can put damage where, like, whatever you want to do to make the deck worse. It is entirely possible to nerf this deck. There are tons of ways to do it. Ignite to 3 mana, deal 3.
It is. I just worry that you're killing cards for the sake of a deck that is like Flow and Spring Water are the reason that you're playing all spells.
Then
I don't know.
delete those cards. Like, I don't know. You can rotate Flow early. I don't care. This can't be the story of a 3rd expansion in a row. And it shouldn't have been the story of this expansion, because it has not been above 50% win rate at any point, I think, during the entirety of Storm. And maybe there was a point at the beginning where it was above 50% barely. But overall, it's been a tier 3 deck the whole time, and people just won't give it up, and the play rate is crazy. So if the experience is poor and the play rate is this crazy, the only way for this deck to go away is if it gets taken from players. And I think there is an opportunity to nudge it enough that people finally give it a rest, and maybe that has to be more than a nudge. I don't know. I don't think that the deck is that offensive, but I'm so tired of seeing it, and I don't want the 6 set to be defined by that experience again.
Right. I guess my concern is just that there currently is no other Mage, and so it may feel bad to like delete that deck and there's just nothing else to go to for Mage, which, like, classes have been, quote unquote deleted for certain periods. Maybe it's just Mage's time to not be a class, and I have to get over that because I like Mage, but I don't like this version of Mage, and so I'm trying other stuff. Hopefully, my hope is we're going to be getting an expansion December 7, like soon, and hopefully it will flush out a new archetype enough for Mage that people do that. But yeah, I don't really have good solutions to the current Mage.
Yeah, like, Chad is saying, I don't know if there's any one particular card that's offensive. I don't think it's one particular card. The only thing that I want to nerf from Mage is the play rate. I don't need the deck to get worse. I just want to see it less. But unfortunately, you can't do that. So you have to make a card worse so people put it down. So, I don't know, Flurry costing a mana seems like it would be fine. And then from there, like, maybe you add a mana here, maybe you add a mana there, I don't know. Ignite is something that I know wild folks are unhappy about, among other things. I don't think that, again, you're going to fix that format by moving into 3, but if it ended up costing 3 instead of 2, like, fine. I don't know. I just want to see it less. I don't even care about the deck's power level. It's not overpowered. I'm tired of that experience. So,
Yeah.
Also, Face Hunter still good, Garrote Rogue probably still good. But to close out this section and the podcast, I think that we all feel pretty good about what the mini-set has done to the last month of this expansion, and that it's interesting and different, and we have stuff to talk about, and I kind of want to play some more Standard. Kind of want to do that.
It's been way more impactful than I anticipated. And maybe that's just because it's early. I guess we'll see how we're feeling next week. But I didn't think that this Demon Hunter deck would stand a chance. And it does powerful things. I don't know if it does them consistently, but it's very powerful.
I think there's enough here for the format to stay kind of cool for another few weeks, and we'll probably get reveals before Thanksgiving. So, because, alright, wild speculation. It's time to speculate before we close out. There's no way they're missing having a new set before Christmas. 0% chance. Absolutely no way. They need to nerf, or plan for a nerf patch, within 2 weeks of the expansion releasing, because that's what they do. And Blizzard always gets the last 2 weeks of the year off. So, that means the last opportunity they have for a nerf patch is Thursday the 16th. Which means they need to release this on either Tuesday the 2nd or Thursday the 2nd or Tuesday the 7th. I am betting on the 7th with a 9-day window to figure out changes. That is my assumption. Thoughts?
Sounds pretty spot on to me.
You seem to have a pretty good head for these things, so I'm gonna go with your take on this.
Yeah, they were before Thanksgiving last year, by the way, for Darkmoon Fair, and I think the intention was for that to continue happening, and then it really didn't, because COVID and Barons and stuff, and also Darkmoon Fair was the rewards track, which had some ups and downs. So yeah, I think that we can expect December 7th seems like the likely release date, but again, this is not confirmed, this is just speculation. So, and, Rain is saying in chat, let's see, hold on, Hearthstone Worlds. When is Worlds? Worlds is December 18th and 19th, right before Worlds. They've done this before. Yes, I think right before Worlds. And
honestly, good for the spectators. It's always exciting to see Worlds with new cards.
And the Worlds is the 18th, 19th. So if they do the balance patch on the 16th, that would be bad. But I don't know if they have a choice, or maybe they defer it until after because maybe they are able to get it in on Tuesday the 21st. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Sure.
But I think that's going to do it for our show this week. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coincede.com. You can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doshi K, Proby One, Crush Cap, B Squatch, David P, Snowpack, Lucky, Fade to Black, Wild and Itinerant Wizard. Also, Incrediplum, thank you for the 5 gifted subs during the show. Baximus, thank you so much for your sub. And Mr. Bungalow, thanks for the sub. Boticus, Coin Concedes, you go first. You have a good one.
Yeah, I am going to coin concede once again to Atesh for coming on. That Duels episode had a bunch of fun interviewing him, as well as getting to talk to him a little bit after the episode over Twitter. It's always good to see someone working at Blizzard who's so passionate about something, and it was just a really big pleasure getting to talk to him. Hopefully we get to talk more, and hopefully this Diablo edition allows for even more experimentation with the format, because I think the format is really great and they're doing a great job with it.
Advice?
So I want to coin concede to Necra, who I opened up Twitch and I saw she was hosting a thing for Twitch Rivals, and
I'm so glad we had the same experience. I was thinking about her as a human being that we know, And then I go to twitch.com on my iPad today, and it's like, I know her. And she was on the front page in the first video that popped up. I was like, she's come so incredibly far and is such an inspiration.
Yeah, I'm hoping I get the chance to say hi to her when I'm in Philly in about a week, because, you know, she's so busy all the time. She works so hard, and it's definitely one of those stories that's been amazing to just watch her career progress from just like local casting stuff to kind of doing Pokemon Worlds and everything, and now this huge Twitch Rivals thing. It's so cool to see that pathway unfold before you. So yeah, huge congrats to Necra. Very, very happy for her. And yeah, Coin Concede as well. This is a more corporate thing. Coin Concede to Wizards for finally making a draft open. I'm so excited. For the longest time, Wizards, they do these opens on MTG Arena, typically with, you know, standard. And they had done some as sealed, but sealed feels kind of bad. You don't have agency over the cards you get. It's just like open 6 packs. Draft, you have agency, and you draft like with other people. So I'm super excited that they're doing an open, like a draft open, because I pretty much only play limited for Magic because it would be expensive and time consuming to keep up with Magic alongside the insane amount of content that we have for Hearthstone now. And yeah, I think a bunch of us are just gonna like be practicing for it and like, you know, rooting for each other and playing it day of. So very, very happy to be able to do that.
Sounds fun. I wish you could draft in Hearthstone. Anyways, I'm going to coin concede to my buddy Wicked Good and the game Metroid Dread. I finally finished it. I was up to the final boss on October 11th, and then on October 12th something happened involving mercenaries, I don't know, and then I stopped playing the game. So I finally beat it this Monday, and we did a podcast together about Metroid Dread over on the Off Curve feed. So if you like Metroid games, you should go listen to at least part of that. If you have beaten Metroid Dread, you should go listen to all of it. If you've played some of it, you should listen to the first half. We have spoiler warnings, don't worry, but it was a lot of fun to talk about a non-Hearthstone game over there, and it's a really, really great game. I'm a big fan. So yeah, that's over on Off Curve on Twitter, and yeah. And that's going to do it for our show. So keep calm and smite on 6, and if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right, stopping recording. We did it. Cool.
Sorry I kept dipping, chat.
Grandma needed help with the TV.
I thought that's so endearing.
Well, so I didn't have her number saved, so I was annoyed that the same number called me 3 times. And then I saw I had 3 voice messages, and I listened to the first one and realized it was her. And then I got scared because she called me 3 times.
Right.
And so then I listened to the voicemail, and then I got annoyed because it was just like she can't have her TV things, and I'm in the middle of the podcast. And then my mom called, and like, I understand my grandma doesn't know that I do the podcast on Thursday, but my mom knows. And it's just like, yeah, I'm in the middle of the podcast. I'll handle it after. And then, so yeah. But,
you know, people forget,
yeah,
right? Because they don't have the weekly obligation.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife knows I have team meeting for Swagoy every week and podcast every week. And still sometimes she's like, oh, yeah, you have the thing tonight. So...
Yeah, but it's all good. Sorry for dipping out, but
we kept talking. We found a way.
It was good.
Yeah. All right, y'all.
Good night, chat. Thanks for hanging out.
See you later.